Okie dokie, let me go ahead and explain the equals method in here. And let me just put this on a new line so you see everything the same with and in here, so that everything is within one screen. Now, public boolean equals object in here. This object is this object right here, rows2. So this is what we pass inside. If I go back, then this is saying if this equals to O, it means that the reference is the same, therefore they are the exact same object. So this right here refers to, so if I show you in our example, it refers to rows1, right? The current instance of the current class. And you've seen this keyword throughout this class right here that we have called cat. So this double equals O. If this is the case, then we know that they are the exact same reference. So here, basically, this is what it's saying. If these two instances point to the exact same object in memory, then they are the exact same object. Then moving on, if this is not the case, then we're going to try something else. So if O equals to null, right? So if O equals to null, then we know that basically it's pointing to nothing. Therefore, it's false. They're not the same. Otherwise, if get class, right? So get class. So this method right here comes from object, right? So have a look. Object. We have a get class. So have a look. Get class. And this pretty much gives the fully qualified name, right? So get class. So if I go back in here, and in fact, I can click from here and it takes me straight in here. But you can see, so here returns the runtime class of this object, basically. So if I go back to cat, so if the classes, they're different, and let me just show you what this basically gives you, right? So if I go to main, and in here, if I say rows dot get and then class, so let's just do for both cats. So just like this, if I run it, have a look. This is the get class. So it just gives me this, right? So if basically the classes, and in fact, let me just revert this because I don't need this. So if the classes, they are not the same, therefore they are not the exact same object, right? So either if the object that we pass is null or the classes are different, then surely they're not the same object, right? So we cannot basically perform equality on the properties. If this is false and this basically doesn't execute, then surely we can take the object that we pass and we can cast it to a cat object in here, because we've done all the work up to this point, especially here, right? So at this point, we know that they're the exact same class. Therefore, we can cast in here. We can cast O to a cat. And you've learned about casting, right? So remember, everything is an object. Everything is an object. So here, dot equals, we are passing an object. And obviously, cat is an object because an object is the root of all classes in Java. Therefore, so if I go back to main, have a look. So rows2, right? So rows2, we pass as an object. Then if I go back in here, we can cast this object that we receive into a cat. Then this step is actually really straightforward. So here what we're saying is age equals to cat.age. So this is a primitive. So this is how you compare primitives with double equals. Then for name, objects.equals. So this is a string, right? So it's a string. So basically, if I show you the object.equals, what it's doing is it says, right, so if the references are the same, it means that they are equals. Or in here, if A is not equal to null, and have a look, and A dot equals, and you've learned about equals on strings. So this is how we should perform equality on strings. if it's equals, then return true. So basically, this is what this object.equals is doing. And then it's doing the same for color. Now, if this is the same, and this is the same, and this is also the same, then the final outcome is true, right? So you've learned about and you've learned about this sign in here, right? So if you have and on an if statement, and basically everything has to evaluate to true for the entire expression to be true. Now here, if I go back to main, so if I run this, have a look. So this is true right here. But if I basically change this to 1, for example, and then run it, you can see that this is false, right? Because not every single property is the exact same thing. So to be honest, this is pretty much what this equals method is doing. And obviously you've seen the hash code, which I'm not going to touch now because this is more on the data structures section, and I'll come back to this. But basically, every time you override the equals, you also should override the hash code. And to be honest, it's as simple as this. And obviously, the benefit of generating this equals with IntelliJ is that, for example, if you are comparing, let's say, arrays, instead of object.equals, it will have its own implementation because it knows the data type and it generates it for you. So never generate this yourself and let the IDE do its thing. This is all for now. Catch me on the next one.